My name is Mikkel White. I am the campus pastor here at the South Lansing campus of Sycamore Creek Church. It's great to see you this morning. We like to start off our morning with a little bit of audience interaction, so we have a shout-out question for you. It was really, really cold this week, so what's your favorite food to make when it's really cold outside? Chili. Hot chocolate. That's a good, I think anything like in the crock pot, anything warm, that's my go-to. I did want to make just a quick note that a few minutes ago there was a car in our parking lot, a tan Oldsmobile with the, it's taken care of. We're taken care of, so no worries. We have a couple of songs to sing this morning. Would you stand with me as you're able and let's sing together?
When you move, darkness runs for cover. When you move, no one's turned away. 'Cause where you are, fear turns into praises. Where you are, no heart's left unchanged. So come, move, let justice roll on like a river. Let worship turn into revival. Lord, lead us back to you. When you move, the outcast finds a family. And when you move, the orphan finds a home. 'Cause where we are, oh, teach us to love mercy with humble hearts. Bow down at your throne, Jesus. So come, move, let justice roll on like a river. Let worship turn into revival. Lord, lead us back to you. So come, move, let justice roll on like a river. Let worship turn into revival. Lord, lead us back to you. King of all generations, let every tongue and nation surrender all to you alone, Jesus. King of all generations, let every tongue and nation surrender all to you alone, oh, you alone. So come, move, let justice roll on like a river. Let worship turn into revival. Lord, lead us back to you. Oh, so come, move, let justice roll on like a river. Let worship turn into revival. Lord, lead us back to you. 'Cause you are King of all generations. Let every tongue and nation surrender all to you alone. You alone. King of all generations. Let come, move. Let justice roll on like a river. Let worship turn into revival. Lord, lead us back to you.
It is good to know that God moves. It is good to know that we can be in that river flowing where God is going. It is good to know that God is good.
I love you, Lord, for your mercy never fails me. In all my days, I've been held in your hands. From the moment that I wake up till I lay my head, I will sing of the goodness of God. 'Cause all my life you have been faithful, and all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God. I love your voice. You have led me through the fire in darkest night. You are close like no other. I've known you as a father, known you as a friend, and I have lived in the goodness of God. All my life you have been faithful, and all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God. Your goodness is running after. Your goodness is running after. It's running after me. Your goodness is running after. It's running after me. With my life laid down, I'm surrendered now. I give you everything. Your goodness is running after. It's running after me. Your goodness is running after. It's running after me. Your goodness is running after. It's running after me. With my life laid down, I'm surrendered now. I give you everything. Your goodness is running after. You're running after me. All my life you have been faithful, and all my life you have been so, so good, God. With every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God. I will sing of the goodness of God.
You may be seated. And kids, it's time for Kids Creek. There's fun and games and stories and snacks. So you can head on upstairs now and have fun.
Miss Ellie's in the back waiting to greet you and to say hi. It's really fun to see lots of kids
Yeah,
going for that.
yeah, it is.
When you came in, you should have gotten a program, and in that program is a connection card. We want to invite everybody here to pull that out and write your name, whatever information you're willing to share with us. This is just one of the ways that we keep connected with you. We send mailers sometimes, we send newsletters. If you're not getting communication from the church, it may be that we don't have your updated information. So write that on. We'll give you more information on what to do with that later in the service.
All right. Take out your phone, and it's time to take that selfie.
Here we go.
All right.
All right.
So what you'll want to do is take that selfie, post it to your favorite social media site with the hashtag SCCMI. And that's just to let your friends know what you're doing on a Sunday morning. Isn't it great to be here?
Yeah.
Yeah, welcome everyone, and everyone online as well. And the selfie of the week this week is this amazing drum set. I wonder how they did that. That's awesome. Okay, Thomas Oates did take that picture.
Yep. Up there playing the drums, take it, yeah. So it's more of a POV shot than a selfie, but that's okay.
It works.
It works. I forgot to introduce you.
Oh.
This is Sue Connectus. Sue is
Hi,
my
everyone.
co-host this morning. She's a small group leader, and you are part of our finance team, and you serve in lots of different ways.
Lots of different ways,
So
yeah.
it's great to have you here.
Thank you.
We are continuing a series this morning. It's called The Power to Change, and our message this morning, it starts with this. So when you think about it, no one really plans to mess up their life, right? Like no one stops and thinks, I want to mess up my life. In 5 years, I want my life to be just a total wreck, right? Let's make steps for that to happen. But people do mess up their lives all the time. It's rare that people end up in a bad place all at once, suddenly. When we mess up our lives, and I include myself in this, it's usually the results of habits, of small actions that we take over and over and over again that lead us in a certain direction. And it's like if we look back on our lives, we could see maybe even one moment where we're like, oh, I made a small choice right then. And that led to these other choices, which led to these other choices, which led to habits that wound me up in this place that I'm in right now. Today, I want to show you an example of someone in our scriptures who messed up their life in kind of that way. And you might guess who this person is if you've been around the church for a while, if you grew up hearing these stories. It's someone from the Old Testament, a man. He had amazing hair, amazing strength, amazing potential, and he ended up losing that amazing hair. He also lost his eyesight. He eventually ended up losing his life. Does anybody know who I'm talking about? Samson. Actually, that's the Marvel character Thor. But when I thought about this description, this is like this fit. But, Samson, here's an AI generation remarkably similar to Thor. You get the idea, though, of what Samson might have looked like. He's an amazing person who ended up utterly broken. And his story raises a really interesting question for us. How did someone with so much potential end up so broken? How did he arrive at a place living a life that was completely devastated? Before we get to that answer, let's pause and reflect on this idea of bad decisions leading up to a broken life or a messed up life. We're going to reflect on this phrase that we started with, no one plans to mess up their life. And one of the things that we like to do here at Sycamore Creek is that we'll pause throughout our message just to give you a chance to think about it. So here, turn to someone who's around you. If you're joining us online, you can put this in the chat. Is it true that no one plans to mess up their life? Why or why not? You're going to have 90 seconds to talk about it and reflect. And as always, if you want to talk about a different question or talk about what you're eating for lunch, you can do that as well. So here's 90 seconds. All right, so is it true that no one plans to mess up their life?
No one plans to mess up their life. I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
I think the Apostle Paul kind of describes it best in one of his letters. I don't know which one, but he says, I don't do the things that I want to do, and I do the things that I don't want to do. And
yeah, I think we all struggle with that tension.
Yeah.
The other thing that I thought of when I reflect on this question is, I talk about Greg Boyle a lot. He is the founder of Homeboy Industries and gang member remediation in LA. And he talks about basically that these gang members know that they're going to wind up in a casket or in jail. They know that. And it's not going to work to scare them out of it somehow. It's just they don't have any hope. And so I think there are, for some of us, it's not yes, I want to do that, but also it's I don't have hope to see a different way. I don't, and so that's part of it too. We have to recover our hope for our own goodness and God's love for us and the goodness of other people.
Yeah.
Which that's probably a whole different sermon. We'll do that another time. One of the things that we do here, we have 3 campuses of Sycamore Creek, and we like to hear from some of our other pastors sometimes. And so for this next segment of our message, we're going to hear from Pastor Mark, who is our pastor in Potterville. So our message continues with this.
So again, we're looking today at this guy named Samson. He's this guy with lots of potential who essentially threw all that potential away and ended his life broken and humiliated. And Samson raises a really interesting question. How did someone with so much potential end up so broken? And the answer, as with each of us, is that he didn't do it all at once. Samson's life started out incredibly blessed. An angel appeared to Samson's mom and said to her, "You will become pregnant and give birth to a son. And his hair must never be cut, for he will be dedicated to God as a Nazirite from birth. He will begin to rescue Israel from the Philistines." Samson would be dedicated to God. He would begin to rescue Israel from their enemies. That's heady stuff. But then Samson ruined his life through one bad decision, one wrong step, one harmful habit at a time. To be very specific, he took about 50,000 steps in the wrong direction. Let me explain. Samson didn't mess up his life all at once. He did it through unhealthy decisions and habits. And those decisions are summarized in one sentence. And the beginning of Samson's destruction is written about in the biblical book of Judges that says, "One day." Will you say that along with me? One day. One day, Samson went to the Philistine town of Gaza and spent the night with a prostitute. One day, Samson made what was his first bad decision that led to other bad decisions that led to ongoing bad habits that led to his destruction. And this is how it goes for all of us. One day. In preparing this message, I came across some research on where Samson was born thousands of years ago and where he traveled to. So Samson was born in Zorah. That's where he's from, and that's circled on top on the map that you'll see. And he traveled all the way down to Gaza, the other town circled on the left side of the map. And it's a 25-mile distance from Zorah to Gaza. Now, Samson was an Israelite, and Gaza was enemy territory for Samson. You might recognize the name of that area, Gaza, and it's a reminder that there's been animosity in that region of the world for thousands of years. So Samson's travel as an Israelite to a dangerous area raises some questions. How does somebody with so much potential end up in enemy territory where he would have been public enemy number one? How did someone with so much going for him end up so far from home, risking so much for so little? I mean, a night with a prostitute? And the answer is that Samson did it step by step. All of the 25 miles from Zorah to Gaza. Now, as someone who walks a lot, well, I keep careful track of my steps. I got my Fitbit on my watch all the time. And the average person takes about 2,000 steps per mile. That means it's about 50,000 steps to walk 25 miles. And here's the thing again. No one plans to mess up their life. No one plans to live paycheck to paycheck, year after year after year, struggling just to stay ahead financially. No one dreams of working a job they absolutely hate, living a life of struggle. No one plans to have Christmas without their children. No one thinks when getting married, I can't wait for this marriage to end in a bitter divorce. No one thinks my life would be better and more meaningful with an attachment to or a habit around something harmful to me. But it happens far too often. What I want to tell you today is that it doesn't have to be this way. We're continuing today in a message series called The Power to Change. And it's a series based on content from Craig Rochelle at Life Church, and a reminder that we're continuing in a series on Jesus' most famous teaching found in Matthew 5-7 called the Sermon on the Mount. In the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus told his followers, "You have also heard that our ancestors were told, 'You must not break your vows. You must carry out the vows you make to the Lord.' But I say, do not make any vows. Do not say by heaven, because heaven is God's throne. And do not say by earth, because the earth is his footstool. And do not say by Jerusalem, for Jerusalem is the city of the great king. Do not even say by my head, for you can't turn one hair white or black. Just say a simple, yes, I will, or no, I won't. Anything beyond this is from the evil one." We've been using those simple phrases from Jesus, yes, I will, or no, I won't, to look at the power of God to work in and through us to change our habits and to transform us. And today we're going to focus on the no, I won't part of Jesus' teaching. Now this series builds on itself, and so first let's quickly review some of our main thoughts from this series. So if we go back to week number 1, how do we actually change? Well, real and lasting change isn't just behavior modification, but it's spiritual transformation. We started here because if we just change the behavior without changing our heart, well, the behavior tends to come back. So real and lasting change isn't just behavior modification, it's spiritual transformation. And this is why our identity is so important. You do what you do because of what you think of you. And a reminder, this is our spiritual who. Who do we want to become? Who is it that God's calling us to be? Who is it that we want to be empowered by God into the glory of God? Now, our spiritual who leads us to our spiritual why. This is the reason for spiritual transformation, and why it always points us back to God and who we want to become. We have a spiritual who, we have a spiritual why, and then we have a spiritual what. Last week, we talked about our habits. And the key question last week was this: it's based on who you want to become, what one habit do you need to start? So we have our spiritual who, our spiritual why, our spiritual what, and today we're going to look at our spiritual what not. This is going to be where we need to say, no, I won't. And our question for today is incredibly important because it's about what's holding us back. Our question is this: based on who you want to become, what one habit do you need to break? Keeping in mind who you want to become and the spiritual why for that transformation, what's one habit that's stopping you from becoming more of who God wants you to be? Jesus said in the Sermon on the Mount, just say a simple, yes, I will, or no, I won't. Anything beyond this is from the evil one. We're identifying here our habit in our lives where we need to decide, no, I won't. In the New Testament letter from James, James writes, so get rid of all filth and evil in your lives, and humbly accept the word God has planted in your hearts, for it has the power to save your souls. Now, let me paraphrase James by using Jesus' words. No, I won't. So I invite you to be specific right now in your mind. Think of one thing. Based on who you want to become, what habit do you need to break? Now, based on interactions with people that I've had, there's some common habits that you might want to address. So some people might want to change their relationship with food and what they eat or what they don't eat. For example, it's comforting and delicious to turn to treats when life is difficult, but you might decide, I really need to eat fewer sweets. Or it's convenient and relatively affordable, but you might say, I need to cut back on my fast food. Now, some people might want to change their relationship with technology. Maybe you easily get sucked into hour after hour of video game play, but you don't want to play video games for your entire life. Or maybe you do, but your parents or your girlfriend or your wife don't want you to do that. Or maybe you need to take your phone and put it down a little more often, even when the siren song of those notifications are beckoning you. Some people might want to limit their time on social media. Social media is designed to reward you for your engagement. It tailors content to keep you engaged, but your life is too valuable and your purposes in life are too great to waste your life online going toward a dark place. And for some of us, it may be something that's not as visible to others on the outside, but it's very real on the inside to us. Maybe it's your attitude. Maybe you have a super critical spirit. Like you have the spiritual gift of criticism, and you can pick apart anything and everything. And well, you've already found 15 reasons today why you don't like being here or why my message is terrible. Or maybe you've got a complaining heart and nothing is ever good enough for you. You're always complaining. You may have some attitude habits that are robbing you from the life and the joy that God wants to give you. Or maybe it's your words. Maybe you're not just critical or complaining in your mind, but your words are laced with those things. And people around you flinch when you talk because they know criticism is coming. Or maybe you have a gossiping tongue and you love talking about other people. And you're noticing that people are trusting you less and less. It could be some bad habit that more than one person that loves you has raised as a concern with you. And well, if that's happened, you'd probably be wise to pay attention to what they're saying to you. Again, our question is based on who you want to become. What habit do you need to break? I'm going to give you a moment to contemplate that and to share that. You can put this in the chat as you're comfortable sharing. Based on who you want to become, what habit do you need to break? Let's take a moment and let's talk about that.
All right, so one habit we want to break. Last week I told you that my weakness was when I see my book and then I wind up staying up really late reading it, and I did that again this week. Pretty much every week I was up till like 12:30 or 1 o'clock reading. And
oh, there was one night I was up till 1 o'clock as well reading a book.
Yeah, that's probably something.
What's really bad is it's a book I've read before.
Yeah, that happened to me too. Yeah. The worst part is that now that my kids have a different school bus, I have to get up at like 5:45. So then that really hurts.
Yeah.
How about you?
So the one thing I struggle with is worry. And I think I let thoughts just spin in my head. And I need to, stop doing that. Stop letting those thoughts take control of me. And one of the things that might help me is to stay off my phone. And, you read one news story and then it takes you down those rabbit holes, and none of them are any good, and just cause me to worry even more. So Yeah, I need to stop those spinning. That stinking thinking, as I call it.
That's spinning around. All right, well, let's continue on to the next segment here. I thought about this question for myself with a little bit more thought, and I had planned on telling you about how like I pick up my phone all the time, and there's this game that I play on my phone, and you like complete tasks, so you have to check back in, and it's like a whole thing. And then I thought that if I was really honest with myself, I was coming up with that answer because I felt like I needed to demonstrate my own buy-in to this message. And I do think it's a good message. I do think that this is like a good thought. Who do we want to become? How do we get there? What is keeping us from being there? And yet, the series is sort of based on like all in. You're going to be all in on this one thing. And I think I need a little bit more time to think about what my big goal is for this year, for my life. Like, I can't do all the things successfully. I can probably pick one or two things that I'm really going to focus on. And many of you know that this past year was difficult. And so I've been working on being really gentle with myself. And yes, staying up till 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning reading a book does not set me up for success. And that's been a way that I have coped with some of the hard things in my life. And so I'm not going to beat myself up about it and say, this is terrible and I have to stop. And maybe I will. Maybe this year that will be a goal for me that I'll say, you know what, this isn't serving me and I want to change this behavior. But also, I don't want any of you to go home beating yourselves up and like, I have to be better and I have to do this differently or I'm not a good person, right? Maybe you need some time to think about what that one thing is. So, hypothetically, you've got one thing in your mind. You've had the time to think about this, to reflect on it. You've come up with your thing. It's probably something that you've tried to stop before, a habit that you've tried to break in the past, and you didn't have success to do that. And so then we have to ask this question, right? Why are good habits so difficult to start? And why are bad habits really difficult to break? There's something that's difficult about this for many of us, and it's important to understand. And so we're starting with that first one, why are good habits so difficult to start? And one reason for that is that the pain is now and the payoff is later. If you're starting a good habit, it's painful now, and the payoff comes later. For example, if you decide that your goal for this year is going to be exercise, you want to move your body more, you want to build up to running, you have a goal to run a race, well, then you might go buy some running shoes. You might make a plan. You might join the gym. You might get your fancy Fitbit watch or whatever it is that you need to do. And you think, tomorrow morning, I'm going to start my day off right. I'm going to go for a run. And then you get up and you look outside, and it is -6 degrees. And you're like, so you get up and you go, and then you're like, your lungs hurt because the air is so cold, and your face hurts, and your muscles hurt, and maybe you're slipping a little bit on the ice. Like, the pain is now. You have to be super committed to get up and follow through on this. The pain is now, and the payoff is later. So in contrast, why are bad habits really difficult to break? Well, it's the opposite, right? The payoff is now, and the pain comes later. If there's a bad habit we're having trouble breaking, like using our phone or staying up late reading, there's some kind of payoff that's happening right now. Your brain is getting some kind of endorphins or dopamine or something from this activity. The payoff is now, and the destruction, whatever it is, will come later. If I'm on my phone, maybe I'm not missing deadlines right now, but maybe I will in the future. Or maybe my work is suffering. If I'm staying up late reading, maybe I can function the next day, but I'm probably not functioning at my best, and eventually that will catch up to me. But I get away with it most of the time, so it's easy to put it off. The payoff is now, and the pain is later. Here's another example, from phone use. The average person spends a little less than 4 hours a day on their phone. That's just the average. That's just the average. So some folks are like not on their phone at all, and some folks are spending like 8 hours on their phone or more. 4 hours a day, though, just going on that, multiply that times 365 days in a year. I'm not good at quick math, but someone else did this for me. That's 1,460 hours a year on your phone. Yikes. That's the equivalent of about 61 days, 2 months, just staring at your phone. Now, I mean, maybe you're doing some work on your phone, but still, like, that's a long time to be attached to a device. And this is an example of how you don't ruin your life all at once, right? Like 4 hours in one day, maybe that's fine, but over the course of a year, you spent 2 months looking at your phone instead of being present with the people around you. So based on who you want to become, you get to decide, what habit do you need to break? So we talked about new habits last week, and how if we want to start a good habit, we got to make it easy and make it obvious. And so for breaking bad habits, we do the opposite. If we want to break a bad habit, we have to make it difficult. We remove the cue and we interrupt the action. So what does that mean for a habit like being on your phone all the time? Well, you got to make it harder, right? Like you put your phone in a designated spot far away. Maybe you lock it up in a little box, or like you put it on downtime. You can set limits on your phone for how much you're on it, and then you have to like make a conscious choice to go beyond that amount of time. And then if you really need it, you can always go get it or take that break or do what you need to do. But to break a bad habit, we have to find a way to make it more difficult to complete the bad habit. In the book of Proverbs, the writer of one of the Proverbs says, "Don't do as the wicked do, and don't follow the path of evildoers. Don't even think about it. Don't go that way. Turn away and keep moving." So don't even get close to that. Avoid it. Avoid the things that are going to be harmful for your relationships with God and with others, and don't follow the path of evildoers. You got to make it more difficult. This is a way of saying, no, I won't. So we looked last week at the habit cycle, the cue, the craving, the response, the reward. And we know that anytime there's a habit, there's a cycle. The first thing that triggers your habit is the cue. So for instance, if you see donuts out, that's a cue. And it causes a craving. Your mouth waters, and you're like, oh, that looks really good. And your response might be that you eat the donut, and then the reward is the sugar high and the taste of the donut. This is the habit loop. And so to break a bad habit, you have to remove the cue. You walk away from the donuts. You close the box. You avoid the bakery. Whatever it is, you remove the cue. So there are 5 common cues. And this is just helpful for us to know for human behavior. Or if you're raising kids, it's helpful to know what their cues might be, right? So 5 of the most common cues. We can't always remove the cues, but we can recognize them. So first, when you go to a certain place, you're cued. You're triggered to act in a certain way. When in certain times of the day, triggers different ideas, different habits. Certain moods do this, certain moments, certain people. When you're around them, you just wind up doing the things that you probably wouldn't do otherwise. Now again, some of the cues you can't remove. You can't eliminate 3 p.m., right? You can't remove the cue, but you can respond to the cue. You can address the cue. You can recognize it for what it is. So we're going to talk about them one by one with places. There are certain places that are going to trigger you to do certain things. For example, if you want to change your relationship with food, you're probably not going to eat less nutritious foods when you're at the gym. But maybe if you go someplace like a buffet, then you tell yourself, well, I have to eat a whole bunch or I'm not getting my money's worth, and then I'm not being a good steward of my money, right? So the place of a buffet triggers you to eat in a certain way. That's all that means. Think about Samson. Samson didn't sleep with a prostitute in his hometown, right? He went to a different place to find that person. He took 50,000 steps away from where he was into enemy territory to make this poor choice. So just don't go there, right? Like, avoid that place or bring a friend with you who knows what you're trying to do and will help you make different decisions. The second thing is certain times of the day. You'll notice that you often do similar kinds of things at similar times of the day. For example, if you have a battle of looking at pornography, that's probably not happening in the morning when you're drinking your coffee and reading your Bible. That's probably happening at night after you've had a terrible day and you're struggling with whatever's going on in your life, right? It's late at night when you're tired, when you've used up all of your other coping mechanisms. Times of day matter. Another cue is certain moods where we're really tempted by our bad habits. There's one of my kids' therapists taught me about HALT. Hungry, angry, lonely, tired. These are things to look out for. This is like a mood trigger. Hungry, angry, lonely, tired. Those things make you vulnerable to bad decisions. If you're hungry or hangry, like, eat something with some protein and like come back to the situation, right? Like, you have to notice what's going on in your mood because that mood will trigger certain actions. We're also vulnerable to bad habits at certain moments. It might be a moment where you do a certain thing in response to that type of moment. Like after a soccer game, maybe you go out with your buddies and drink too much, right? That's what you just do after the game. That's like your routine. That's the ritual. You play a game and then you go hang out and you drink too much. Or after you flunk a test, you eat dessert. Or maybe you pass a test and you reward yourself by eating dessert. I can relate to that, right? There's certain moments when we tend to do the same thing over and over, and they can lead us to those bad habits. Now, finally, one of the strongest tempting factors is the people we're around. Studies show that the closer you are to someone, the more their behavior will affect yours. The more you'll be influenced by their character and by their habits. The closer you are to someone, the more likely you are to behave in a similar way to them. So in Proverbs, that wisdom book of the Bible, it says, walk with the wise and become wise. And it also warns us that a companion of fools suffers harm. So if you find yourself often doing the wrong thing around the same people over and over again, you might want to change the people that you're hanging out with a lot of the time. So I mention all of these cues because in order to remove a habit that we want to stop, we have to watch those cues. We have to be aware of what they are and be ready to address them as much as possible. To break a bad habit, you have to remove the cue. So we're going to pause here for another chat question. What cue is most likely to lead you toward a bad habit? Is it a place, a time of day, a mood, a moment, or certain people that you might be around? Take 90 seconds and talk about it. I think what we've decided is that this is really tricky.
Yes.
It's actually really tricky. I think for me, if I'm thinking about my bad habit being staying up late to read, it's like the moment after the kids go to sleep, when it's like finally my time of the day, and finally this is kind of how my brain winds down, except that obviously it doesn't totally wind down because I'm staying up really late. Maybe it's how my nervous system calms down. I don't know. But there's something like that moment of the day is when I am like, okay, time to read.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for me, it's mood. And if I'm tired, all bets are off.
Yeah.
That could lead me anywhere. and we've talked to how all of them are kind of cues at some time or another, and we're all different too. So.
Yeah. And as much as we want to remove some cues, like we've talked about, you can't remove all cues.
Right.
We're always going to be tired. We can have some control over when we go to sleep
Yes.
and whatever. But
well, let's face it, I'm not going to live my life never tired again.
Right. You're not going to. It's not like you're never going to be tired. And if
Yeah.
you're trying to change your relationship with food, that might mean that you're hungry at other times of the day, and that might affect your. It's like they're all kind of interconnected.
They are.
Yeah.
Very much so.
So now that we've solved that problem,
Okay.
keep going. So the first thing we're going to do to stop the habit that's preventing us from becoming the person who we want to be is to remove the cue, right? When we can. And after we do that, to break a bad habit, we interrupt the action. So you might have something that you're trying to stop, right? For example, when you're getting up in the morning, you hit the snooze button 73 times. And so you simply have to take your phone or your clock or whatever it is you're using as your alarm and move it across the room. And then, in theory, you have to get up to go over there and turn it off. Now, my watch is attached to my phone, and so it buzzes. That's my alarm, so I always have I guess I could take my watch off. That would be how I would do that. I'd take my watch off, and then I have to get up and go across the room to turn it off. You've interrupted this action of hitting the snooze button. Another example is if you're overspending on Amazon all the time. This is maybe drastic, but you could give someone else your password to Amazon. And so then you have to ask them for that before you make that purchase. You have to interrupt the action. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to remove the cue as much as possible, and then we're going to interrupt that action. And so for many of you, when we've been talking about habits, but I want to pause here because some of us might have more than what would just be called a bad habit. Some of us might have an addiction. Now, I will say a couple of weeks ago, my phone heard me talking about this in the middle of the service and then chimed up to let us know that I could get some help. If that happens, just we'll let that go. But if your bad habit has gone to something that's more of an addiction, it may take more drastic measures to remove the cue, to interrupt the action. That might mean going to rehab. It might mean seeing a counselor. At Sycamore Creek, we have some recommended counselors. We have some folks who are part of our community who are therapists or counselors, and so you can go online and check that list out. That can be a way to get help with an addiction. That's one of the ways you can get that. I don't want you to fight that on your own, and I don't want you to think that if I just do these 1, 2, 3, 4 steps, that everything will be better. Sometimes we need to bring in outside help for us to get past or through some of those things that we're facing. But all of us can remember that asking for help is never a sign of weakness. It's always a sign of wisdom. Asking for help is never a sign of weakness. It's always a sign of wisdom. For the most part, who you are today has been formed by your past habits, your past decisions. For the most part, your life today is a reflection of whatever habits you had before today. And so for the most part, the habits that you have today are going to shape who you are tomorrow. Your habits matter. So much of our life is out of our control, but this is one thing that we can control. Samson didn't plan to take all his God-given potential and then let the Philistines humiliate him, so he died in such an awful way. He ended his life while he was imprisoned by the Philistines. They had removed his eyes, they had cut his hair, he was humbled and humiliated. And how did he get there? He took 50,000 steps in the wrong direction. The good news for us is that there's 50,000 chances to turn back to God. Right? You might be halfway there. You might be 25,000 steps in. You can still turn around. There's 50,000 chances to turn back to God. And we have those chances too. God's grace is that good. God's presence is so powerful. And so what we all need to understand is that you're not the sum of what's been done to you or what you've done. You're not even the sum of what you're doing right now. You are God's beloved. You are loved by God. And it's time for us to live like that. Live out that truth that we are loved by God. And by doing that, we're saying, no, I won't. No, I won't do this thing that doesn't match the reality of my belovedness as God's child. There's no bad habit that's too big for God's grace. God's power is made perfect for you. As Jesus Christ in you is stronger than the harmful desires or the things that you're facing, you can overcome. So, challenge for us is to each take a step. Maybe that step is reflecting on what is the big thing for this year. Who is it that I want to be at the end of this year, and what is the step that I need to take to get there? Through God's strength in you, you can take that step toward who you want to become. And so one final time, based on who you want to become, what habit do you need to break? So our invitation is that through the power of Christ that we're going to leave that habit behind and step together into something different. I believe that God wants something better for me, for us, a better version of us that's more closely aligned with who God's made us to be. So we can move toward that together today. Amen. So we have some ways maybe that we could get connected, that we could take those first steps. Maybe you've been thinking that what you really need is a community. You need different people around you. We've got ways to connect with the community. And so I want to invite you to take that connection card back out. Again, fill out whatever information you're comfortable sharing with us. Flip it over. We've got next steps. There's also a place for prayer requests. So we have a team of people who are praying over these prayer requests every week if there's something going on in your life. And then we're getting ready to tell you about the stuff that's on the next steps. So if you have any questions about that, just wait just a moment and we'll get there.
So the day has finally arrived.
Woohoo!
Yay, tubing at Birchfield Park today at 4 p.m. There's snow, yay!
There's snow. And it's not -6 degrees.
Yes,
It's going to be beautiful.
Yes. So Sycamore Creek will pay for your parking and also for your tube rental as well. You can bring your own tube or sled if you want to as well. And if you do rent one of their tubes, they will ask you for your license or your keys or something that you'll get back when you turn the tube back in.
Yep.
But it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Weather is definitely permitting.
Yes. When you pull in, just tell them you're with Sycamore Creek, and they'll mark it down, and you won't have to pay for parking. That'll be great. Yeah. In your program, you should have a serve sheet. You can pull this out and just look over it. If you're looking for a place to get connected or start a new habit or build a different kind of community, check that over. we'll be in touch with you and let you know what the next steps are, give you more information about what that might look like. But it's a really important part of connecting to this community and being part of Sycamore Creek.
Groups and events. You also have a group link program that was given to you today. Lots of different things that you can get involved in. I'm going to highlight the 2 groups that I'm leading. One of them is setting up a tiny pantry here in South Lansing, and Susan Kelly and I are going to be talking about that. So if you want to join in those discussions and help us out, that is group number 24. And then I'm also leading a quarterly spiritual retreat, and that is group number 26. You can just write those numbers down on the connection card. And if you haven't had a chance, take this home and read it, because there are just so many ways to become active and just be part of our community.
Yeah. And you can always go to sycamorecreekchurch.org/small groups or scan that QR code if you would like to, make your decision later if you're taking that home.
Yep.
So like we said, just mark off on your connection card what next steps you'll be taking, and then you can stick that in the blue bucket at the end of your row. That will give us a chance to follow up with you on whatever it is whatever step that it is you're taking.
Celebrating giving this week. We had a table of 8 that we sponsored on Monday. There we are, the 40th annual MLK Day of Celebration. There were 1,500 people at this event, and this event takes place all over the country. And I think, Mikkel, you told me that Lansing had the largest participation of everyone who did this event. So that was amazing. And your giving helped support that. We sponsored a table of 8 at that event. And so, so in addition to keeping the lights on and having this wonderful building, your giving goes to support so many different things. Yeah.
If you'd like to give this morning, you can scan that QR code, or you can put your gift in the envelope that's in your program, and then just drop that off in the blue bucket at the end of your row.
You can also give online.
That's right.
As well. Yeah. Or through the Sycamore Creek app. Too.
However you choose to give, we're really thankful. It helps make stuff like this possible. We have one more shout out question for you. Are you an early bird or a night owl?
Neither.
I'm a night owl, obviously. Although I've seen some that's like, I'm just a permanently tired pigeon. You've seen that? I also can relate to that. All right, we have a couple more songs to sing, so would you stand with me as you're able, and let's sing together.
All the poor and powerless, and all the lost and lonely, all the thieves will come confess, and know that we are holy, and know that you are holy. And all will sing out hallelujah, and we will cry out hallelujah. All the hearts and architects, and all the fears then He is God. Shout it, go on and scream it from the mountains. Go on and tell it to the masses that He is God. Come on now and shout it. Go on and scream it from the mountains. Yeah, go on and tell it to the masses. Oh, He is God. Yeah. And we will sing out hallelujah, and we will cry out hallelujah, and we will sing out hallelujah, Lord. Oh, shout it. Go on and sing it from the mountains. Go on and tell it to the masses that He is God.
It is so good to know that He is God.
Well, I searched the world, and it couldn't fill me. No man's empty praise, treasures that fade are never enough. You came along, you put me back together. Now every desire is now satisfied here in your love. Oh, there's nothing better than you. Oh, there's nothing better than you. Lord, there's nothing, nothing is better than you. Well, I'm not afraid to show you my weakness, my failures and flaws. Lord, you've seen them all, and you still call me friend. 'Cause the God of the mountain is the God of the valley. No, there's not a place your mercy and grace won't find me again. Oh, there's nothing better than you. Oh, there's nothing better than you. Oh, there's nothing, nothing is better than you. turn seas into highways. You're the only one who can. You're the only one who can. You're the only one who can.
Thanks for joining us this week. I hope that you will return next week as we continue this series with a message on stopping trying. Yes. Until then, be curious, be creative, and be compassionate. Go in peace.
Turn graves into gardens. You turn bows into